Kobe Bryant was used to people treating him like a superstar. Coaches, trainers, reporters, fans. Everyone leaned in when he spoke. Everyone watched when he moved. Everyone listened when he breathed. But there was one man in the world who never cared about any of that. One man who, to Kobe, was not just a mentor, not just a guide, but the person who shaped the way he saw the game, and himself. And the world had no idea that this man, the one who helped build Kobe's mind, was quietly living in poverty while Kobe rose to global fame. The truth didn't reach Kobe until years later. And when he found out, what he did next would become one of the most emotional, private, life-changing moments of his entire career. It began long before the championships, before the MVP trophy, before the headlines, before the world knew him as Kobe Bryant. Back when he was just a skinny, introverted 13-year-old kid struggling to adjust to life in Philadelphia after years spent overseas. He felt like an outsider. Awkward, quiet, obsessed with basketball in a way nobody around him understood. And that's when he met Mr. Haskins. Not Coach Haskins. Not Professor Haskins. Just Mr. Haskins, a retired high school English teacher who volunteered part-time at the local rec center. He wasn't a basketball expert. He didn't play overseas. He never coached a winning team. But he had something Kobe desperately needed at that age. Someone who paid attention. Someone who saw him. Someone who understood that the quiet boy sitting alone after practice, dribbling a worn-out ball against the wall, was carrying the weight of enormous expectations and enormous loneliness. While everyone else saw Joe Bryant's kid, Mr. Haskins saw something different. "You think too much," he told Kobe one afternoon as the gym emptied. Kobe froze, surprised anyone had noticed. "That's not a bad thing," Mr. Haskins added. "But you have to learn how to think forward, not backward." Kobe tilted his head. "What does that mean?" "You miss a shot," Haskins said. "You replay it in your mind 3,000 times. That's backward thinking. You take a shot, you move on immediately. That's forward thinking." Kobe blinked. Nobody had ever explained his own mind to him so clearly. And that day was the beginning of something strange and unexpected. Every week, while other kids played video games or hung out with friends, Kobe sat with Mr. Haskins at a metal table in the corner of the gym. No cameras, no notebooks, no fancy drills, just conversations. About pressure, about discipline, about fear, about excellence. "There are two players inside you," Mr. Haskins said once. "The one who performs with confidence, and the one who collapses under doubt. Feed the right one, starve the other." Kobe was mesmerized, not because the words were complex, but because the truth felt sharp and honest. And because for the first time, someone wasn't treating him like a prodigy, just a kid trying to figure himself out. Kobe carried those lessons into high school, into the gym before sunrise, into the games where he dominated older players, into the workouts where he pushed himself until his lungs burned. And when he became the most hyped high school player in the country, people assumed it was because of his talent, his father's influence, his ambition. Nobody ever mentioned the quiet teacher who helped Kobe build his mental armor one sentence at a time. The years passed. Kobe graduated. Then the NBA drafted him at 17. The world exploded around him. Fame, pressure, spotlight, endorsements, cameras, constant noise. But one thing never changed. Before every season, Kobe visited the old rec center. And every time, without fail, he found Mr. Haskins sitting in the same metal chair with a paperback book in his hands. "Thinking forward?" Kobe would ask. "Always," Haskins replied. And they talked. Sometimes 5 minutes. Sometimes an hour. Sometimes about basketball. Sometimes not at all. And then one year, he wasn't there. Kobe assumed he'd gone home early. The next year, still nothing. The rec center staff told him the man didn't volunteer anymore, but nobody knew why. Kobe felt a strange discomfort, an unease he couldn't quite name. This wasn't like Mr. Haskins. He wasn't the type to disappear. But Kobe was in the middle of a championship run. Life was loud, busy, demanding. 1 year turned into 2, 2 into 3. Then one day, after practice, Kobe overheard 2 older locals talking near the parking lot. "Shame what happened to that teacher." Haskins, right? "Yeah, lost his house. Medical bills. He's staying in that old duplex by the tracks now." Kobe stopped walking. His chest tightened. "Who?" he asked. They repeated the name. "Haskins." Kobe didn't say a word. He didn't ask follow-up questions. He just got in his car and drove. The duplex was small. Faded paint. Cracked stairs. No air conditioning unit. Curtains drawn shut. Kobe knocked. No answer. He knocked again. And finally, slow footsteps. The door creaked open. And there he was. Older. Thinner. Wearing the same kind of sweater Kobe remembered. Eyes still sharp, still gentle, but carrying something new. Exhaustion. Kobe, he whispered, surprised. Kobe swallowed hard. Why didn't you tell me? Mr. Haskins shrugged. Your life is big. Mine is small. I didn't want to add weight to your shoulders. Kobe shook his head slowly. You carried me long before I carried pressure. Haskins chuckled softly. I didn't do that much. Kobe stepped forward. You taught me how to think. That's everything. He looked around the tiny, dimly lit living room. No furniture besides a table and one chair. Medical papers stacked on the counter. A half-empty fridge. And suddenly the truth crashed over him. This man, the man who helped build his mind, had been suffering alone. Quietly, privately, proudly. Kobe felt something he rarely felt. Helplessness. Why didn't you reach out? He whispered. Haskins smiled faintly. Greatness doesn't have time for old teachers. Kobe's jaw tightened. Greatness makes time. Haskins waved a hand. I don't need charity. Good, Kobe said. Because I'm not offering charity. He walked into the middle of the living room, heart pounding, emotions swirling into something fierce and immovable. I'm paying a debt. Mr. Haskins fell silent. Kobe continued. Every championship. Every comeback. Every film session at 4 a.m. Every game-winning shot. Every ounce of discipline. Every drop of obsession. He pointed to his temple. This started here. With you. Haskins's eyes began to glisten, though he tried to hide it. Kobe didn't let him. Let me help. Kobe, please, Kobe said softly. Let me do for you what you did for me. Haskins finally looked up. Really looked. And whatever pride he was holding on to gently cracked. He nodded once. Small. Subtle. Enough. Kobe went to work immediately. He paid all the medical bills. Quietly. Anonymously. He bought Haskins a new home near a peaceful suburban park. He furnished it. Stocked it. Maintained it. Ensured he had care. He visited weekly when he was in town. Called when he wasn't. And he never told the media. Not once. Not ever. The world never knew. But something changed in Kobe after that. Something deep. His teammates saw it. His coaches saw it. Even opponents saw it. A quiet seriousness. A sharpened fire. A deeper purpose. Because Kobe realized something profound. You don't get to choose your teachers. Life sends them quietly. But you do get to choose how you honor them. And sometimes the greatest victories don't happen on the court, in the spotlight, or under the roar of thousands. They happen quietly. In a small duplex. Behind a fading door. With a man who once told a young, lonely kid, think forward. And for the rest of Kobe Bryant's life, he did. Kobe stepped into the new house 3 days later carrying 2 bags of groceries and something else, something heavier, though it weighed nothing at all. Responsibility. Gratitude. A sense of unfinished business that had lived quietly inside him since childhood. Haskins was sitting at the kitchen table, cardigan neatly buttoned, a cup of tea cooling in front of him. The house around him looked different now, warmer, brighter, almost alive. But the man himself hadn't changed. He still held himself with the quiet dignity of someone who lived by principles instead of circumstances. You didn't have to do all this, Haskins said softly as Kobe set the groceries down. I wanted to, Kobe replied. Wanting and needing are different things. Kobe pulled out a chair and sat across from him. Then let's call it both. Haskins chuckled, the sound thin but sincere. You always were stubborn. Kobe smirked. Takes one to know one. They sat in silence for a moment. The kind of silence that's comfortable only between people who understand each other on a level beyond words. Finally, Haskins lifted his tea. You look tired. Kobe snorted. You always said that. Because it was always true. Kobe leaned back in his chair. Do you know what I used to think during those early morning practices? That you hated running laps? No, Kobe shook his head. I used to hear your voice in my head. The way you explained things. The way you broke down fear into pieces small enough for me to step over. Haskins's eyes softened. Fear is never the enemy. Standing still is. Kobe smiled faintly. Exactly. Another quiet stretch passed between them. Then Haskins said something unexpected. When you left for the NBA, I wondered if you'd ever come back. Kobe didn't answer right away. He stared at the steam rising from the teacup. I always meant to, he whispered. But the world got loud. Haskins nodded. Loud worlds swallow quiet promises. Kobe's throat tightened. I'm sorry. For what? For not seeing sooner. For not checking sooner. Haskins shook his head gently. Life isn't about timing, Kobe. It's about direction. And you came back. That's all that matters. Kobe looked away, swallowing against the unexpected ache in his chest. Haskins changed the subject. Tell me something. Does the game still matter to you? Kobe blinked. Of course it does. No, Haskins said firmly. Not the game. The craft. Does that still matter? Kobe stiffened, because this, above all else, was the question that sliced straight through him. Yes, he said immediately. More than ever. Haskins nodded once, satisfied. Then your foundation is still intact. Kobe frowned. What do you mean? People lose themselves, Haskins said, folding his hands atop the table. Fame, fear, success, pressure. If you're not careful, they begin writing your story for you. He leaned in. But if the craft still matters, then you're still the one holding the pen. Kobe sat back, stunned by how perfectly the words cut through everything he'd been wrestling with. Aging, expectations, criticism, legacy. I needed to hear that, Kobe murmured. I know, Haskins replied. That's why I said it. For the next hour, they talked not about wealth or illness or fame, but about purpose, craftsmanship, focus, the mind, the things that once shaped Kobe from the inside out. And Kobe realized something astonishing. He hadn't just come to help Haskins. He had come because part of himself had been drifting, and this man, this quiet, humble, overlooked man, was the anchor he didn't know he'd lost. Eventually, Haskins grew tired. Kobe helped him to the living room, settling him gently into a large, comfortable chair. As he adjusted the blanket around him, Haskins placed a hand on Kobe's wrist, thin, fragile, but steady. Kobe, I'm proud of you. Kobe froze. The words hit him harder than any roar. From a championship crowd, harder than any accolade or trophy or headline. He swallowed. Hard. Thank you, he whispered. But Haskins wasn't finished. Not for what you do. For who you became. Kobe's eyes stung. He blinked quickly, nodding. You shaped that, he said. You helped me become that. Haskins smiled. All I did was point at the path. You walked it. Kobe exhaled slowly, centering himself before emotion overtook him. I'll visit tomorrow, he said softly. Get some rest. Haskins nodded, eyes closing. Forward thinking, he murmured. Kobe smiled. Always. He stepped outside into the cool air, the sun low in the sky. The world felt different, smaller, sharper, more meaningful. It wasn't until he reached his car that he allowed himself to breathe deeply, understanding the weight of what had shifted that day. He hadn't just repaid a debt. He had reconnected with the root of who he was, before fame, before pressure, before expectations. In the days that followed, Kobe visited often. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they didn't. Sometimes Haskins slept quietly while Kobe sat nearby, reading or studying film. Other times, Haskins would sit up and deliver a single sentence so profound that Kobe carried it with him like a secret weapon. Your mind is a room, he once said. Don't let critics live in it. Another day, most people fear failure. You fear comfort. That's why you succeed. Another, a gift becomes a curse only when it owns you. Kobe wrote those down. All of them. And slowly, something remarkable happened. The house began to fill again. Not with noise, but with life. A warm lamp here. A stack of books there. A fresh coat of paint. A new armchair. Soft music in the morning. Sunlight through clean windows. And Kobe realized, this wasn't charity. This was restoration. Of a home. Of a spirit. Of a connection that should never have been lost. Weeks passed. Then months. And Haskins grew stronger. Not young again. Not fully healthy. But steadier, clearer. Almost revived by the dignity of being seen and valued again. One afternoon, as Kobe prepared to leave for a road trip, Haskins called out from the doorway. Kobe. Kobe turned. Yeah. Promise me something. Kobe stepped closer. Haskins looked up at him, eyes bright. Whatever you do next, whether it's basketball, storytelling, business, fatherhood, do it with the same mind you built here. He touched his temple again. The mind you formed before the world tried to shape you. Kobe nodded slowly, the weight of the moment settling around him. I promise. Haskins smiled, satisfied. Good. Then you'll never lose yourself. Kobe carried those words onto the plane, into the locker room, into the final years of his career, and later, into the chapters he wrote after basketball. And when reporters asked him where his mindset came from, why he was wired differently, why he thought differently, why he approached everything with the precision of a craftsman and the hunger of a beginner, Kobe always smiled and gave a simple answer that the world misunderstood. I had a great teacher. They assumed he meant Phil Jackson or his father or some legendary coach from his past. They never imagined an aging English teacher in a small house near the train tracks. And Kobe never corrected them. Some stories don't belong to the world. Some stories belong to the heart. But there was still one more chapter coming, one that neither of them expected. One that would test Kobe's promise and reveal just how deeply the teacher had shaped the student. It began with a phone call, a quiet, trembling one. And when Kobe answered, the voice on the other end said only 4 words before the world around him seemed to stop. Kobe, it's time. Kobe didn't ask what it's time meant. He felt it instantly, like a cold hand closing around his ribs. A stillness spread through him, the kind that comes before a storm or after a truth you've been trying not to face finally arrives. He grabbed his keys, walked out the door, and drove without thinking. The roads blurred. The streetlights passed like streaks of memory. He didn't turn on the radio, didn't call ahead, didn't prepare himself. You can't prepare for moments like this. When he reached the house, the porch light was on, a dim, amber glow that looked softer than usual. The door was unlocked. Kobe stepped inside silently. Haskins was sitting in his armchair by the window, wrapped in a blanket, a cup of tea untouched beside him. The air smelled faintly of chamomile. A nearby lamp cast a warm circle of light across the room. But it was the way Haskins held himself, upright, calm, as if guarding something precious, that told Kobe everything. You came, Haskins said softly. Kobe swallowed. Of course I did. He moved closer, sat on the couch across from him. Haskins studied him, the way he always had, quietly, deeply, without rushing. I didn't want you to find out from someone else, he said. Find out what? Kobe asked, though he already knew. Haskins's fingers trembled slightly. My doctor says the treatments aren't working anymore. The room felt suddenly smaller, heavier. Kobe leaned forward, elbows on his knees. There are other options. Specialists. New trials. Haskins smiled gently. Kobe. No. His voice was calm, steady, unafraid. This is the part of life that doesn't have a comeback. Kobe looked down, jaw tightening. I can't just sit here. There has to be something. There doesn't, Haskins whispered. And that's all right. Kobe pressed a hand over his mouth, staring at the floor as pressure built behind his eyes. Haskins didn't rush him. He never had. When Kobe finally spoke again, his voice was low, strained. How long? Months, Haskins said. Maybe less. Maybe more. Kobe rubbed his forehead. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Haskins's smile was painfully familiar, gentle, apologetic, full of affection. Because your life is loud. And this is quiet. They sat in that shared quiet for a long time. Kobe's breathing steadied. Haskins rested his hands in his lap. The clock ticked softly in the hallway. Then Kobe asked the question he feared the most. Are you afraid? Haskins shook his head slowly. No. I've lived my life the way I wanted. Taught the way I wanted. Thought the way I wanted. His eyes softened. And I got to see the kind of man you became. Kobe closed his eyes. Because that, more than anything, hurt. Haskins wasn't talking about fame or success or championships. He meant something deeper, something personal, something that made Kobe feel 12 years old again, sitting at a metal table in a rec center, desperately wanting someone to believe in him. When he opened his eyes again, Haskins was watching him closely. Kobe, you kept your promise. Kobe frowned. What promise? You lived forward, Haskins whispered. Always moving, always learning, always becoming. Kobe shook his head slowly. I only did that because of you. No, Haskins said firmly. You did it because you listened. Kobe felt something shift sharply in his chest, grief mixing with gratitude, pain mixing with pride. Haskins's voice softened. I don't need anything from you now. Except one thing. Kobe straightened. Name it. Haskins held his gaze. Let me go without you carrying guilt. Kobe looked away sharply, blinking fast. That's not. You can't save everyone, Haskins said gently. But you saved the boy you used to be. And you became the man you hoped you'd be. He breathed in, slow and shallow. That's enough. Kobe wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. I'm here, he whispered. As long as you need. Haskins nodded. Tonight is enough. His voice was growing weaker. Kobe reached out, placing a hand over the frail, thin hand resting on the blanket. Haskins squeezed back, weakly but deliberately. One last lesson, he whispered. Kobe leaned closer. I'm listening. Haskins closed his eyes briefly, gathering what little strength remained. Then he spoke the final words he would ever teach Kobe Bryant. Greatness isn't what you leave on the court. A breath. A pause. It's what you leave in people. Kobe's throat tightened violently. His vision blurred. Haskins continued, voice barely audible now. And you left something extraordinary. Kobe bowed his head, unable to speak. Haskins squeezed his hand once more. Then his breathing slowed, softened, fell into a rhythm that felt like memory, familiar, comforting, fading. Kobe stayed there, holding his hand long after the world went silent. No tears yet, just presence, respect, love. Eventually, he whispered the only words he could find. Thank you. Hours later, as dawn crept through the window, Kobe stepped out onto the porch. The sky was pale blue. The air was cold, but something inside him felt warm. A small, steady flame that would burn for the rest of his life. Because Mr. Haskins was gone. But his lessons weren't. And Kobe Bryant, champion, icon, legend, carried those lessons into every chapter that followed. Into every speech, every story, every decision, every fatherhood moment, every business venture, every creative ambition, every quiet morning where he still rose before the sun. The world would eventually ask Kobe where his mindset came from, where his resilience came from, where his relentless pursuit of excellence was born. And Kobe would smile, a soft, private smile the world rarely saw. Because the answer was simple. It came from a teacher the world never noticed. A teacher who lived in poverty. A teacher who shaped a legend, quietly, humbly, anonymously. And Kobe carried that truth like a hidden treasure. The kind only a grateful student could understand.